Just a second. I got it. Yeah. Okay, we know what our competition is, and so we will do that. And I look across here, and boy, I see a room full of a lot of friends I've known for a long time. What a great feeling to walk in here and see this. And I'm listening as our Secretary of State, who is, by the way, he does get a little brazen once in a while, and he's got to tone down his rhetoric a little bit, but he makes me think. So I'm thinking, let me see, what don't you have to show an ID for? And this raced through my mind. There are three things that I think I've accomplished single-handedly that maybe nobody else has done. The first thing was, when I went to the Iowa Senate, I noticed that there wasn't any corned beef and cabbage being served in the cafeteria. And so I went to Nacho, who was our cook, and said, you need to cook corned beef and cabbage on St. Patrick's Day. And he said, I don't know how. And I said, neither do the Irish, please cook it. And he did. And you know how the rotunda used to be open up so the air would... I single-handedly, with Nacho's help, changed the atmosphere in the Iowa Capitol at least one day out of the year for the Irish. The second thing was, Chuck was chief of staff. A little message came over that CMS, Congressional Medicaid and Medicare Services, had hired a consulting company to find out if they had to fund Viagra through the Medicare Part D. Uh-oh. There's a problem. If we're going to borrow money from the Chinese for something like that. And so we launched that effort, and you always have to have help, so you can't claim the sole credit, but if you look at this and say, if I had not stepped up to that task. So, single-handedly changed the atmosphere in the Iowa Capitol and cut off federal funding for Viagra. I'm here to make this confession. And one more. What is impossible? What is impossible? Well, if you ever go out and drive on the Autobahn, there's no speed limit. So it would be impossible to get a speeding ticket, wouldn't it, on the Autobahn with no speed limit? But I want to tell you that I single-handedly accomplished that. I drove down the Autobahn and going along just fine. People were passing me, and I was going a lot faster than I can confess. And I got a speeding ticket on the Autobahn, and I didn't have to show an ID map. Now, I've lived. My life is complete. And it'll be even more complete when we see one of these candidates for United States Senate step up on the floor of the United States Senate in January 2015 and take the oath of office to represent Iowa. Frosting on the cake will be when that other guy from Council Bluffs is moved out of the leadership position and we win the majority in the Iowa Senate and Bill Dix is the majority leader in the Iowa Senate. That'll be a great day. It'll be the same day. And when we hold and strengthen our majority in the Iowa House of Representatives, another grand day. Think of what we can do with a re-elected Governor Branstad, a re-elected Lieutenant Governor Reynolds, this executive committee. I think we're going to be missing one if we don't hurry up and fill in one gap that's out there. But this Iowa, whether it is to the left or center, I think that we have our values and our convictions here. You know what they are. If we stand and we defend them, then we will expand this thing across the state and the country. And I've long said that we have to move the center of our society and our civilization. It isn't just about getting enough people out of their houses to go put up the vote, although 80% is really good, Kelly. And I love the competition you've got here between Lyon, Osceola, O'Brien, Sioux, Plymouth. We want to bring them into this thing and challenge them a little bit while we're at it. There's no better place in America for a Republican than Northwest Iowa. I mean, I know that. I have the privilege to represent you. I know that. And I tell them that in places like Holland, Michigan. And they go, let me check some numbers. And you go right ahead. And here's some numbers to check. John Kerry was a candidate for president. He only got, what was that number, 2,200 votes out of Sioux County, for example? And they said, there must be some election fraud going on here. We should send an investigative team to Sioux County to find out what happened with the fraud, that there were only 2,200 people that voted for John Kerry in that election. And we said, come on up, because we can't believe you found 2,200 people. It's true in Osceola, and it's true in that Plymouth County that I challenged just because they're outside our geographical area tonight, but they are engaged. And so I want to tell you the things that I'm frustrated about too, and that is NSA, topics come up tonight, this idea that we have moved into somehow a surveillance state, where the federal government can track every phone call, the source, the destination, the date, the time, and the duration of that phone call. Not listening in, but track them all. They can track your internet activity. They can track your credit card number. And I thought, well, okay, I'll send my confidential stuff through snail mail. But there's a picture of the front and the back of every envelope, so that gets a little bit hard to do. Today, oh, by the way, the Obama campaign bragged that they had this sophisticated computer program that profiled voters. If you would, under open source, if you would go to the internet in certain places, they said this to me in private and public conversations, they could track it. If you went to the NRA website for 3 times, now you are a Second Amendment person, let's suppress that person's vote. But if somebody goes to a gay website, let's go out and do the voter turnout with them. They were proud of that. So you put this whole thing together, the surveillance capabilities that we have, and you can't drive from Bangor, Maine to San Diego today without leaving a data trail of some kind. Even if you pay cash for your gas, you'll leave a data trail. Now, some of this we need to protect ourselves. In fact, a lot of it we need to protect ourselves. We built firewalls between each one of these, but the firewalls don't work because the IRS proved it. And so now we have a government that can look in over the top of everything that's going on. Cody made that point. I want to find the maximum security that we can tolerate while we protect our constitutional rights against search and seizure. And that's going to be a hard balance to find. It's going to take a lot of debate in this country. But I wanted to make that point. And Benghazi. We still don't know the timeline for Benghazi, let alone they haven't released the autopsy report for Ambassador Stevens. How can you believe an administration that went out in the public, the president included, and misinformed the American people? And now we're all these months down the line without the straight answers out of it yet. We need to get to the bottom of that. We need that select committee to investigate Benghazi, and the posterity will look back on us and be ashamed of us if we're not able to get that done. So, then, embassies. The administration, we may all be in agreement on this, but we may not. The administration shut down 19 embassies, all of them in Muslim countries in the Middle East or North Africa. 19 of them. Why? Because the internet traffic was greater than it was since September 11, 2001. Now, this is the United States of America. Now, you remember first, we would pull people out of those embassies and then say to Al-Qaeda, well, the internet traffic scared us out of here. We've got a little other intel, but the internet traffic scared us out. When do you decide it's safe to go back? Do you decide now that, oh, it can't be today, it can't be tomorrow? Maybe it's going to be September 10th. You wouldn't order it on September 10th, right? And I wouldn't either. I think once you retreat from the enemy, you inspire the enemy, you encourage the enemy. We're the United States of America. Maybe we don't have enough Marines in those embassies, but we can put enough Marines in those embassies. We didn't have very many in the embassy in Saigon either, January 31st, 1968, at the Tet Offensive, when the Viet Cong sappers blew a hole through the wall and poured through that hole in the wall and assaulted our embassy. We lost, if I remember right, 4 or 5 MPs and I think 1 Marine in that fight. But before the sun came up, there were 18 dead Viet Cong and 1 wounded that was a prisoner. If we could defend the embassy in Saigon throughout the entire Vietnam War, until such time as the last man was lifted off the top of that in April of 1975, we can defend our embassies across the Middle East and Africa. And any other message is a message of weakness, and there is no good time to go back there and say it's safe. So I want to be really blunt about that we need to be thinking clearly, and that piece of it.